Okay, Steve, go ahead.
I'll be just a sec.
I'm sorry.
Bill, are you home or are you on Mattoon?
I'm home.
See
Leaving
the,
after the meeting.
Sorry.
see the action behind you yesterday?
Yesterday,
Yeah,
they started at about 7 clearing trees and
Right.
stuff.
yeah,
Oh,
And they had already brought in the track hoe to take the building down.
mm-hmm,
He started at 3, and by 4, it was in the basement.
yeah. I was up there just as it started raining yesterday.
Yeah. So looks a lot different.
Yeah, it does.
Where are you guys talking?
High Street.
Yeah, High Street.
My sound wasn't working before, so I had to get my technical support here. Christy.
I don't know if you remember, Bill, but you actually worked on that house.
I did.
You did, yeah. Early 2000s, I think. You helped them try to make a ugly house a little bit better. You raised all the ceilings because he had built them with 7-foot high ceilings, and added an addition for a breakfast area, and all your work is gone.
I don't even remember that.
Try again.
Okay. Let's call this meeting to order. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
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 First order of business would be the minutes from the previous meeting on July 21st. Comments? I move to approve the meeting, to accept the meeting minutes from the last meeting on July 21st.
second.
Okay, motion by King, seconded by Wendy Naylor. King,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Childs.
Yes.
Okay. Applicant number 1341 Meadow Lane. We have an HSR that was required by prospective. Briefly, it is deemed it's 100 years old, but does meet the standards of historically significance. Interesting application really along those lines. Their comments were the changes that are recommended do not follow the codified ordinance guidelines, and that it would have an adverse effect on the design historical significance of the house, having that it is historically significant. Comments were along the lines of the board and batten citing inappropriate. The windows are undetermined, and it's had a lot done to this house. Inside all the changes is an old house. They have a very inventive fenestration on the rear of the house. The proposed replacement changed the appearance, do not follow the codified ordinance or preservation of features, replacement of features and compatibility, and in that regard, it has an adverse effect on the adjacent continuous neighboring buildings.
I don't like it.
Don't like the changes or what was done before the current changes, I guess, is the issue. neat old house covered up by a lot of ideas in the past.
Let's see the project.
Christie, is the applicant on the line?
Yes, they're in the panelist group. They can start their videos and unmute if they choose. Dennis is online. Dennis, the sound check, please.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Would you like me to move that the board has reviewed the historic significance report?
This is Dennis Marino.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, I appreciate the, historic concern here, but I think the horse is out of the barn on this one for a while now. We're trying to solidify the character of this house, and rather than being two different structures pushed together, trying to make it look as if it's one.
Do you guys want to accept the historic significance report? And then we should move to a view of the proposed.
Harry, we had a motion. We should vote on it.
Yeah, who made the second?
Phil?
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Naylor, seconded by Childs to accept the historic significance report. King,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes.
Naylor.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I should say, Dennis, accepting means we've received it. Do
Right.
we concur with every little bit in there? Not necessarily. It is an odd, in my mind, an odd circumstance because of the neat old house that's hiding inside the one that's there now. And the prospectus doesn't call all the shots, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Personal view is that we should move towards the highest ground that we can achieve with what is there now. We do have,
I agree.
yeah, all right. Please proceed.
Des, why don't you go ahead and start your presentation?
Okay, well, right now, we've got essentially the front mass is the original home buried underneath. I believe this house was, Harry, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, this house was moved at some point, probably 80 to 100 years ago. And somewhere along the way, it was covered with shake siding. Then in the 80s, this addition was put on the back that does not jive at all with the house, really, the existing house. This wraparound porch that's kind of overkill, but has been there for a while. And they, when they put the addition on, they put shake to match what was on the original house, which I'm sure was not the original siding. It was one of the victims of the sandblast era as well. So the shakes are not in great shape at all on that house. So our thoughts were trying to make it, do a little board and batten. So it looks like, obviously this house was not one piece, but it have a little more logic to the way it was added together, and it's kind of streamline the pieces parts here. We're eliminating a couple actually sliding doors that aren't necessary. Trying to centralize the entry to what is in the center of the screen you're looking at right now. That would be the main entry into the house, and not where the current well, it is a front door now. There's still the original front door in the front of the house, which we were eliminating and putting another double hung window in its place. And we just, looking to have a little bit of difference in texture from the different parts. It would be all monochromatic is the idea of color. Actually, the color that we're looking to go with is James Hardy's Deep Ocean, which is a very dark blue, doing sort of a monochromatic look to it with black windows. So yeah, the replacement, we're replacing the old lead coated windows that don't work really on the original house. We have some late 80s Andersons on the back that we'd paint. Get rid of the half round starbursts, sunbursts, I should say, that don't really go anywhere.
What are the new windows?
We're looking at it's actually Harvey Building Products. It's a very high end. It is a vinyl window, but it's a beefy window that we can get the integral trim with. They do a nice sill nosing and flat trim on it. It gives you that very similar look to what the windows are there now.
What's the width of the trim?
3-inch flat is their standard.
So basically, this is siding and windows. You're not really.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
We're
not really-
we're putting a new roof on. We're replacing all the siding and about 2/3 of the windows. Like I say, and in the process, eliminating a couple of superfluous doors that don't really have any purpose.
So on the front elevation, are they 6/6 windows? Harry, can you go back to the, yeah, okay. So you're planning on replacing those as 6/6s,
Oh
right?
yeah, we'll stick
Okay,
with
so you'll
the
leave that
original format.
Configuration, and you already have a shingle siding. Wait, I drove by. Is there's existing shingle siding and you're adding that batten board at the top on the
Yeah,
second
the
floor?
existing, like I say, that especially on the original part of the house, it's been sandblasted and it's
Yeah.
just it's done. So we're get rid of that. We want to keep that texture though on the porch, but
Yeah.
then change up, that gable, have a little different look to it, where we would do the board and batten, all be in the same color, but just have that textured variation.
I mean, from a historic standpoint, where I see we're getting caught is there's a section of the code that assumes a house that's more than 100 years old is historic, whether it has integrity or not, and
Right.
we talk about that a lot. And looking at this, the character defining elements of what appears to have been a Greek revival have really been altered to me.
Oh, they're buried, yeah.
And the fact that the building has been moved, houses were moved all over Chagrin Falls. So to me, that doesn't throw it out on that level.
Mhm.
You're not in a historic district. You have a lot of new houses that are around you. I'm looking at all these factors when I come up and try to look at this from what am I comparing to? Do I have historic integrity here? And in my opinion, a lot of the character defining elements have already been removed. I'm from a design standpoint, I'm not seeing the batten board at the upper floor being consistent with the shingle on the first floor. I might use a more consistent siding
I agree.
throughout.
Yeah, I'm not
But
sure
as far
about
as historic integrity and historic analysis, I feel like a lot of the building character defining elements have lost. The reason I asked about a 6/6 is that is the type of window that you usually see in a Greek revival. So if we
Mhm.
wanted to keep something at the facade, we might be able to do that while you alter the back of the house. So at least the main public sight line, that shape is maintained. So those are my comments at the moment.
What now, I saw a photo, but I'm not sure if it was a historic photo or a current photo of the Greek revival returns. And now I'm seeing the big pork chops. Are those big pork chops
I think that's,
existing?
my plan would actually be to return corner boards to the house.
To put cornice
And I think
returns
that's-
or corner boards? The cornice returns or the corner boards?
I'm actually, now you got a good question there. I want to,
The return is at the, at the pediment,
right,
This-
yeah. It's
yeah,
got
okay.
a little bit of that. I don't know if Harry can bring up from the
Do we have a photo of the existing?
history
facade?
report has there's a picture on
Yeah.
in the historical report.
It looked like it was still okay.
Yeah.
Whereas what's proposed looked awkward. Not really.
How's that picture?
Thank
Yeah,
you. That's
that's
good.
it.
Good. Thanks,
I
Harry.
would say that the house as it is, the view from the street, like a house with a front door, and the proposal removing the front door, it's like a house with no front door, and that's a significant departure from any older houses. You can always see the front door. Board and batten to me is it's a barn material, therefore maybe a garage or a carriage house with the old house. Owning windows of that nature. I think we should strive to be able to drive by and look at it and say, gee, they're an older house. Porch isn't right and this and that and so forth. But it looks like an old house. Back to original siding would be wonderful. Then it would look like what it is and it would get the continuity you're looking for. Instead of going board and batten, going black, which fits the overall silhouette of the house.
4-inch clapboard kind of look.
Yeah, that would be my first choice.
Is
totally
that
agree.
what you'd say would be appropriate? Is a 4-inch lap on there? Would like more like a 6? I guess, yeah. What is that standard with the?
Well, 4-inch lap might contrast more with the shingle that is going to remain. So it'll read as a tighter line. I think that might be nice. And I'm worried about these windows with the 3-inch board around. It looks like those existing windows have the old, 4.5-inch, 5-inch casings. So I'd love to see, obviously it'd be nice to get the storms off those, right?
That's
With a new window, but I'd like to see the casings be more substantial, especially because this house is not over windowed and that, we don't have the shutters. So if the casing's smaller, it just makes the whole thing a little smaller. It's not helping it.
Mhm.
But I'd love to see that preserved. In terms of the material of the windows, does that mean you've got like grills between the glass or some kind of
I mean, that's
yucky?
for practical purposes. That's what most people prefer these days,
Well, yeah.
as
Yeah.
well as expense. mean,
They're-
everyone's got a budget.
They're definitely less expensive, but
I think if you focused on the facade and trying to keep some of those Greek revival roots that you can still see in the house. So if you go back to what would have been towards the clapboard siding, if you go back towards, simulated divided windows, not just snap, get that 6/6 look and get that profile back into the window and the trim and kind of focused on that facade of the house. The rest of it is towards the back where you have all the 1980s additions and all. But I just don't think the batten board is the right way to go.
no, I
Well,
agree with that.
If we went,
Bill, I'd defer to you, but that does not look like an original door to me. That looks like someone's replacement door. to me.
The windows aren't original either. They're
Right.
too wide.
Yeah.
You don't think the
Interesting.
windows are original? Okay,
No. They made them wider.
okay.
They would have been 28 inches, 26 inches, something like that. Those are 36, looks like.
Okay,
Oh, we don't have the original windows. We don't have the original doors. We don't have the original siding.
So,
And completely wrapped with, it's been completely wrapped with a porch that doesn't work. I mean, the only you can kind of barely understand the original Greek. And
I mean, that's really that, like I said, the detail on the upper, the frieze is about the only thing that's left.
exactly.
And you're preserving that, right?
Yeah, we can.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's helpful.
I know, yeah, I mean, and I guess I would say if the board and batten is a problem especially on the main part of the house, we've talked about doing maybe lap and mixing up with the shake, maybe, I don't know, we did the lap on the porch and the shake above, kind of.
I like the lap above, and that those shakes up there probably are more weathered.
Oh, well, the whole original part of the house is, yeah, those are, like I said, they were obviously sandblasted at some point.
You're replacing it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the
And so
shakes
wait, what's-
gone.
So where we put this stuff, whether it's shake above or shake below, or I mean, I don't want to call it shake, it's shingles.
Yeah.
So shingle below, shingle above.
What is your shingle material you're proposing?
It'll be, I think we're looking at probably a hardy is what we would go if probably
Yeah.
the panel version of it, just give it that same kind of not too ragged looking shake, a clean shake.
A consistent line to it.
Yes, yes.
If we're redoing the siding because all the shake is toast, I think it should be clapboard on.
Mhm,
I agree with
The whole
Steve. This
thing.
is
mhm.
Phil Childs. I would do the entire house in 4-inch clapboard siding. I would study the Greek returns and do the returns as what they did with the Greek revival. And I would definitely do what Wendy said, simulated divided light. I wouldn't put a vinyl window in. And I think with not too much of an expense, I would study the casings and put the stools on, and just a little bit of extra detail would go a long way to make this look like a classic, timeless Chagrin Falls Greek revival house. I don't think it'd take a lot more to do that. Instead of having these dissimilar materials, these pork chop returns and vinyl windows, I think just to step it up a little bit would make a nice fit in this neighborhood.
Well, so I guess what I'm reading, you'd like to see the whole, at the very least, the whole original house in lap.
Correct. The whole
Yes.
entire composition. Yep.
Right. It's not bad to unify it. I think that would be helpful.
No, I just think because, we've got that back end is not going to be Greek revival.
No.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
okay with that kind of siding. We're okay with that.
Are you?
Okay,
Great.
yeah.
We bought an old house and we like the old house, and, the architectural input is interesting and valuable to us, but, it's hard because we don't know what exact type of house it was, and we haven't seen any original pictures. So, we want to go for something classic. So if it's not, terribly expensive, I mean, of course we have a budget, we're interested in hearing what details would make it look more authentic and, unified.
Great.
Because it's
The
just
windows
very
are
hodgepodge
great.
right now. There's all these extra doors, and we're just and since they partitioned it, the view changed, and that was the idea about closing off that front and making the view the other way, because since the land was sold off, the way that the original house was situated, and it used to be surrounded by acreage, that the view has changed. And so that was sort of like our thinking about, changing the entrance a little bit, and, keeping it inviting
Again.
and keeping that walkway to the front because we still want to be able to get onto the porch and get into the front door, but we're like, there's so many doors, it's kind of like this kooky. It just doesn't make any sense, like how many
Yeah.
doors they put on this place.
We don't have as a reference what the floor plan is because we can't see it here. It's not submitted. So I understand that change over time is part of what we're talking about here. How do you honor the history of the structure? And I accept that you probably don't understand what this house looked like, but I think that's why we're here. We do understand how it looked like, and I think Dennis has probably has a pretty good understanding as well, that we're trying to honor what the architecture that's hidden behind here, maybe bring some of it back, but also respect the fact that this is, we're in the 21st century here. This house is not, this is not a restoration project. I don't think that we should be asking people to, spend $100,000 to try to recreate the history of the architecture. I think it's respect what we have, use, honor it as best you can, reflect the scale and detail of the architecture as best you can in the newer versions, in the newer things. Anything you do, don't make it worse, make it better. And I think the conversations that we've been having are all headed in that direction. Does that make sense?
The siding go like the whole way around? I mean, how would you see?
I think that's where,
Corner boards.
I think that's where you're leaning, right?
To use a consistent siding for the whole length of the house?
Yeah,
front
it
and
would
back?
give continuity to the addition and the historic piece. I think it might help bring it together.
Unless you're not
Suggesting
reciting.
No shingles.
Oh, were you planning on reciting the addition portion of the house?
Yes,
I mean,
Okay,
the house is not,
it needs it.
it's like the roof.
Okay.
I mean, it's not water. I mean, we have to shore it up. Like the siding needs to all replaced. The roof
We
has to
have-
all replaced.
Mhm.
Many years of deferred maintenance to deal with.
Yeah, it's not in great shape.
I think regarding the front door, I mean, you do, I tend to agree with Steve's comment, but we don't have the floor plan. And that's maybe a place where we should be flexible, because you can see that the other door at the back of the return wraparound porch, which is a configuration you do see. I mean, I don't think you're going to feel like this house doesn't have an entrance. And
If you go
I'm
back
just-
to I'm sorry to interrupt. If you go back to the straight on view of the front of the house, you can
Yeah.
still see that door there.
correct.
And
so
we leave the
just-
opening in the walkway so it looks like you can approach the house from the street.
Yeah, we're trying to that's the big problem. This house was on the market for many years, and flow in the house, in my opinion, was a major problem with it. And that's what we're trying to rectify and consolidate that centralized entry will go a long way in that regard.
Maybe you move the steps over online.
There are steps on the side already. There's a nice grand entryway from the side.
I personally was comfortable doing what I'm about to say in a 1836 house one time. We had a door in a similar situation that went right into our kitchen, and we ignored the door from the interior. From the outside, it looked proper, and from the inside, it wasn't. We put a counter in front of the door. You could put a piece of furniture in front of your door. In other words, it's not used. So you have any flow that you want, but it still doesn't look like a Greek revival house with door, which is what it will look like if you get rid of that door. Going around the side is not what it looks like. Look at that picture that you're showing right now without the door there. The house has no front door. And finding one, I mean, we all assume that there's a way to get into the house, but the silhouette of the Greek Revival, which is all we can claim right there, needs a front door.
Okay, I agree with Steve. Frankly, if the door is intact and you want to use the space but not use the door, just leave it alone
Right.
and ignore it on the inside, because the elevation that's showing right now on the screen really does define this, despite the fact that the two windows on either side are too big, but it defines the original Greek. And then with respect to the siding, you were asking, should we take this, do we take the lap siding all the way around the house? And as I'm looking at this, maybe instead of up and down, it's leave the character of the Greek as lap siding, and you use the sort of the forms of the architecture, the newer architecture, to introduce some other material, because it's already not a Greek Revival. And so, like, I don't know, you could do the vertical siding. I think you could do the vertical siding, introduce the vertical siding. You could introduce shingles, but do it on the additions to the rear with that architecture that's a little bit different. I kind of like the vertical, the combination on it's the southeast elevation, colored elevation, where you're using shingles on either side of that exposed truss porch.
Right. Yeah, accentuating the recess, basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
A
I guess,
lot of the features applied to this house over the years were victim to what was currently done. Hey, that looks one too many rides to the Home Depot, you know, that kind of thing. Black windows fall into that category, because currently right now, metal roofs are in and black windows are in. 30 years from now, we'll look back and go, yeah, remember when we were doing, everybody was putting black framed windows on an old house? That's what is going to happen.
I agree. I second that.
I third that.
I had one comment. They had asked about details in the Greek Revival. This is one of many books. Jonathan Goldsmith, who was a master builder in the Western Reserve here by Elizabeth Hitchcock. This is one of their books on Greek Revival. There's a couple other ones too, but if you just, I know it's old fashioned with the books, but if you just Google on Amazon, I'm sure this could come the next day, or a couple books on Greek Revival detail. And again, you don't have to like go crazy, just do this, like get the idea, the concept. You don't have to get all the perfect moldings and stuff, but at least gives it the emulation of it without spending a ton of money is all I'm saying.
I do like the possibility of vertical, because the view we're looking at, the modern kind of break in the continuity of like the pediment that's already there, like vertical siding architecturally would be compatible with that, which I think is what Phil started talking about. But I agree with that on this partial exposed truss, kind of odd rear elevation, because of the vertical breaks that are already there. You're going to work with that, with the vertical board and batten.
You're saying board and batten on the addition, on the back addition?
Yeah, because of that funky rear elevation of it.
Yeah,
So
I
you
think
put it all the way around the back addition? that what you're saying?
That's what I would do,
Okay.
right?
I'm thinking, do you want to embrace the addition as being different?
Right.
I mean, it's too, I mean, I've done that a lot of times. Sure, you know, you've got that look like, you know, the barn was joined to the house kind of
Yeah,
look.
like that New England, what do they call it? The New England farmhouse.
Little house, big
Connected
house, back house, barn.
farmhouse. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that might be a look for you, yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so should we propose a revise and resubmit?
Yes.
Steve, are you ready for a motion?
I am.
I move to revise and resubmit based on comments from the board.
I second it.
Okay. Before
Wanna
I,
list said comments, the general way.
Comments including attention to Greek revival elements, the use of 4-inch clapboard siding on the historic portion of the house, consideration to contrasting materials on the addition, and use of simulated divided lights on the historic portion of the house.
Okay,
okay,
thank you. I'll second that motion. Do we have a second? I'll second that
think-
motion.
I thought Bill Childs seconded.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So we have a motion by Naylor, seconded by Childs to revise and resubmit with comments noted. Joan, do you have all the comments? Doc?
Yes,
Okay. And then I also need Mrs. Crowley's first name for the record.
I'm Jennifer, thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, roll call. King,
Yes,
Naylor,
Yes.
Childs.
Yes.
Thank you.
we appreciate your efforts on this. It's a tough chore because
Yeah.
it's not a restoration and you want it to be better. And I can tell you, I will say, you know, the money aspect is tough because I think this house is a victim of many budgets in the past. So whatever you do, do it right and maybe pull back on some things that are in the budget right now. Windows are so important to a house. They just redefine the whole house and they're not given enough credit.
I agree.
That's an important, maybe an important money spot.
They're lead now and we have children, so we need to get rid of them.
Yes.
But
Well,
we
that's-
appreciate all of your input. It's been very useful, but you know, we want to do it correctly. Hopefully we
Good
can
for you.
figure it out.
You'll
Jennifer,
figure it out.
Thank you
Jennifer,
for working hard on it, yeah.
yes. Jennifer, when we sat down today, Harry informed us that we have a walk-in at the end of the day. So you don't need a fancy appointment to stop in first or Tuesday. You can throw in, most times you can throw in and say, hey, what about this? We welcome that.
What, we could come to the office and do that?
Well, this meeting, at the end of the meeting, you were on the agenda and you had to be on here 20 minutes ago and all that stuff. You can also, somebody just called up Harry the last day or two and said, is there room for me in the end of the day?
Okay.
You could
for
come in and say,
walk-ins.
hey,
Okay.
what about this? You know, that works.
We can't vote on it, but we could definitely give you
Yeah,
feedback.
the input, the information from these trained people.
We're very excited to have a house in Chagrin and we thank you for your time and, you know, we hope we can do it correctly. And
You can, you
this thing
can.
is
Oh, yeah.
like,
Welcome. That's
We'll get
that's
it.
great.
okay.
All right, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, thanks.
Moving on to 42 West Orange Street. Proposing to replace existing wood deck pergola with new covered pergola.
Mr.
Yeah.
Vitt, can you start your camera and unmute, please? Rob Vitt is on as a panelist. I'm trying to get him to start his camera and unmute so he can speak.
Bob, I think.
I'm not sure if he goes by Bob or Rob. I have both written.
Bobby,
He goes by Bob.
Oh, thank you. I will mute myself and try to call his cell phone.
feel the hand of God at work here.
Hey,
Give it a minute, but we could put him at the end of the day, straighten the technical issues out by then.
Yeah, why don't you jump down to, if Chris, I don't want to mess Christie up here, but
Yeah,
down
let's,
to Phillips Automotive.
there's one in between there, I think.
They're both the same. He's
Oh,
Oh, there he is.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Okay, Bob, can you give us a sound check, please? Let us know. Can you just speak so we know we can hear you?
We're getting a strange feedback.
you have two devices on? Do you have a
Yeah,
phone?
we just shut one down here.
Okay,
Better.
Very good, thank you.
okay. Just a little bit of background. We've been contacted by actually two owners at Riverwalk. This initial one is unit 42, which is one of the original duplexes. It's the the end unit to the extreme west of the original Riverwalk complex. They currently have a pergola on the roof, over the roof deck, that is an open lattice. And they have requested a change from the open lattice to a closed roof, waterproof roof system, so that they can enjoy the rooftop terrace, which is in essence their yard, much more time during the course of the year. So this involved utilizing much of the existing structure that supports the existing pergola, and rebuilding building a new framing system that would accommodate a plywood, 3/4 inch plywood deck with a EPDM roof membrane. And what it would do, and it would still be open on essentially 4 sides, except for where it makes a connection and is flashed to the fireplace chimney. But in essence, it would be an open-sided pergola, but it would be a hard waterproof roof. It would be expanded to the limits of the existing parapet walls. So it is enlarged by several feet in the north, south, and east-west direction. And essentially, it is an accommodation to them to extend the seasonal use of that space by making it a waterproof environment. It also would protect, in each case, they have expensive furniture, although it's outdoor furniture, and they do know that they're going to get some wind-blown rain that comes into that structure. The existing columns, 2 of them need to be adjusted in location, basically to accommodate the spans, but it is slightly asymmetrical on the spacing of the columns to permit easy walking around the columns. The north, as you're looking at the drawing, the northwest, the upper, or excuse me, northeast, the upper right-hand corner column is located in that position because you can see there's a corner kitchen, outdoor kitchen element, L-shaped cabinetry with a countertop. And so we moved the column as close as we could get to it, but still leaving access to that kitchen element. The columns are supported by structural elements that are in the ceiling system of the floor below. And so the alignment of the columns in the north-south direction need to remain the same. But we have the ability to adjust east and west along that structural column. The roof has a, as I said, an EPDM membrane, and it's sloped at 1/4 inch per foot to an external gutter. The snow loads, which previously would have fallen and have been accommodated on the deck itself, will now be on the upper roof of this pergola. And although it probably won't accumulate as much as it does on the deck, because on the deck it was contained by the perimeter parapet. On the roof being flat, much of this snow will probably blow off, but it's basically being designed to take the same snow loading that the original decking out was below. Drainage is accomplished by the gutters running north-south on the east and west side of the structure, and discharge down to the deck where it previously was being picked up through scuppers and diverted through downspouts to the underground storm sewer system. Essentially, that's the proposal. It's simply trading a somewhat larger solid roof for the previous or existing lattice, which is a PVC lattice over a wood framing system.
The asymmetry is really bugging me. I mean, I think you should pull it off of the chimney there. And I understand you probably don't have you don't have a ton of flexibility even in the plan in terms of where the columns are, when you could conceivably leave them the same place, or if you move them as you're showing, I would just make it symmetrical, one side and the other, and let a little bit of water come down the face of the chimney. I mean, I just don't think it looks right up there. I also think that, you know, you're building a big sail up there, so I wouldn't worry about the roof load. I'd worry about this thing just ripping right off or cranking in the wind. I don't see the diagonalization that I would think might be required to keep this from racking or torquing with the uplift.
The uplift would be controlled by, we discussed this about using stainless steel eye bolts bolted through the wood structure and down through two reinforced clip angle hidden in the parapet wall. So there'd be a vertical cable at the corners that would, and the attempt there is to be as inconspicuous as possible. So it might be 1/4 to 3/8 inch stainless steel cable to an eye bolt that is in the structure above, and that would supplement the uplift concerns that you're speaking of.
You have a licensed engineer that's signed off on this?
Well, we'd have it reviewed by a structural engineer.
Yeah, George, this is still preliminary. It hasn't even gone through code review yet.
Gotcha. Well, then I'd just stick with a comment on making it a symmetrical. It's going to be pretty visible just to look at up there. And if it was symmetrical, I don't think it would be a big deal to have a solid roof up there.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. It's almost invisible when you, because of the height of the building and the perspective which you can view it from, unless you're quite a distance away. And if, I don't know, did you include any photographs?
No, there's
We-
no photos.
Yeah, I thought we had maybe sent some photographs, but we photographed it. And as I said, it's almost invisible to the eye because of the height and the angle at which you're viewing it.
Harry, we're looking for a preliminary approval here, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
I have a question, Harry. Because this property was individual development agreement. My personal opinion is that you had a roof there and it's now a 4-story structure, whether that's a porch or not. And I think that's in violation of the zoning variances that were put in place for this property.
No, Phil, I checked on this because we had a similar application last year that came through by a different contractor. And I had the same concerns you did. I did check with our law director about it. And he said, as long as they're not exceeding the height of the building,
Okay.
they're okay, they wouldn't need any zoning variances. Now, the applicant will need to get permission from the homeowners association to go forward, building this. So.
Yeah.
I would move for preliminary approval based on the comments that have been brought forth, particularly the engineering sign off. It'd be nice to see the photography you mentioned, because if you need a drone to see this, that would make it easier to.
I second the motion.
Okay.
The concerns, I don't think it's going to be visible, but I don't know for sure. Harry?
Okay, so we have a motion by King, seconded by Naylor for preliminary approval with comments. Naylor,
Yes.
Childs? Bill, Childs,
Sorry about that. Yes.
King.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the next one is, I think basically the same thing, correct, Bob?
Yes, the difference is it's more symmetrical, simply because of the way, that's a single unit, it's not part of the duplex. And so it's, as you can see in the drawing, it's considerably more symmetrical. But essentially the construction is the same. The purpose is the same. The intent, all the intentions are the same. And obviously we have the same, address the same issues of uplift. The only difference is on this one, they were concerned about it being a little darker than they'd like, so they wanted to do 4 skylights. That's essentially the only difference.
So this also looks disproportionate to me. Just basically those overhangs look too, what you had before looked proportionate. I think you might be able to address that from your column points with some diagonal members, and you've got kind of some latitude because you're not in a completely traditional vocabulary on these buildings anyway. You're not in a traditional vocabulary, really. You might be able to put something, a diagonal support runs out, say, from the post, maybe move the beams out further or have more than 2 beams. I don't know. Something ought to change that looks like looks like
See,
it's
what-
gonna just start hanging over.
What's
And
driving this, what's driving this one is the location of those two beams are tied into a header, a substantial structural header that is located in the wall above the 12-foot wide slider unit.
Well, you could make the roof smaller too. I mean, they don't have to have a 21-foot, 2-inch covered roof.
No, they were trying to get as much as they could. I mean, obviously, we could probably draw it in. We could probably draw it in a little bit. I mean, it's open anyhow. They know they're going to get some rain that blows in from 3 of the 4 sides. The 4th side is where it connects into the gable above the 12-foot wide sliders, and where it's tied in at that point, that is a rigid connection of the roof plane into the horizontal plane of that gable, and to the very extensive timber lintel that is above the slider unit.
Yeah, but that's kind of a train wreck tectonically. That thing is like coming in and slicing into the pediment.
Right.
But we do feel we can make the detail work.
I think you could have a short bit of roof that's only as wide as the beams that comes out from under the sloping roof, and then go wider.
Oh, no, and that's what we could do that. Yes.
I mean, just a real short, like even if it's a 1.5 feet. But
well, yeah. In fact, we had talked about it with that unit owner because, and we may pull it out 2 feet once you get outboard of the gable, and the reason is that would give them access to put up a ladder and get onto the roof if they ever had to do any cleaning or service.
Right.
So that's something that could easily be accommodated. So the only connection into the house would be literally right at the point of between the 2 beams.
maybe just redraw this one and bring it back slightly different configured.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I would do on this one is whatever the width of those 2 doors are, do a little pathway, and then hopefully that equals the width of what the fireplace is, and then I would pull back the overhangs of each one of those by half, and that would be aesthetically, I think, a good solution. And then, like mentioned, George had mentioned the tectonics of how that connects into that gable. You won't have that kind of bastardization, and then you still get cover when you come out, and you still get cover between the fireplace and the actual pergola.
So what you're saying is that would be the west side of the, is that what side? The west side of the pergola would basically terminate near the face of the fireplace.
Right here, I'll draw it like this, and then go like this. And then can you pull the screen down a little bit, Harry? Or maybe it just goes like, and then, oh, sorry, let me erase that, sorry. So what I was saying is if you could go like this, just bring this out, and then just bring this across, and then go this way. And then whatever 2 of these doors are, and then go half.
But you might need to go as wide as the beams.
Yeah, you could. It just is a
Like the
good.
beams are connecting in.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd have to be as wide as the beams.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that's what I was imagining too.
Something like that.
Just as wide as the beams though.
So you just be here. As long as this doesn't get awkward right here and right here, I don't know how that dies into that pediment. So
Yeah.
clean.
We can work that detail out.
Okay. Then we move to approve with comments like we did the last one. Does that make sense?
We could move towards preliminary approval.
Yeah, preliminary approval.
Oh,
Yeah.
prelim approval with comments, and they could come back for final, yeah.
I so move.
Second,
Oh, sorry.
that's okay. I didn't hear one.
Okay, so it's been motioned by King, seconded by Childs for preliminary approval with comments. King,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Childs.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Sure. no
Do,
problem.
do the people in the first structure, are they aware of the idea of skylights?
Yes, they actually was surprised. They declined them.
Okay, I was just thinking ahead, maybe.
Yeah.
That's all.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Phillips Automotive, 10 West Orange. That's a busy street tonight, today.
Phillips Automotive, can you let us know if you're on the line? I have them registered as a panelist. I'm just trying to get their sound to work.
I don't know how you open it, like on a phone.
Yeah, these are car mechanics, not,
Computer geeks.
Yeah,
yeah.
I just need Phillips Automotive. If you're on the line and you can hear me, I just need you to unmute in the Zoom platform.
Is this area, signage area fit appropriately, Harry?
Yes, it's less than 12 square feet.
Is it in lieu of the existing sign or complementary to it?
I think it's a compliment to it. You can ask the applicant that. You talking about this wall sign here where it says Phillips Automotive?
Right.
I'm going to give the participant a call.
I think it's kind of cute.
I think the lower one's actually probably more visible from the street, you think? I mean, it's just kind of way up there. But not saying I really object to it.
Yeah.
Like the logo,
Yeah.
wherever they put it. It doesn't, I don't know if it's super comfortable in that triangle.
Yeah.
Like it could be down on that, down instead of the other sign and it would look pretty hot.
Yeah.
My dog is being very patient.
He had to be patient to take that ride with you yesterday.
He is a good traveling dog. Yeah, 6-hour ride. She just sits in the car the whole time, doesn't compete.
George, will you be taking over hat wearing from me?
Oh, only while I'm up in Michigan, potentially not having showered.
Well, that's a spinach hat.
Steve's pretty hard to compete with on the hat collection.
Yeah, I really
You're
can't.
gonna have to start working on that, George.
I can't compete with you, Steve.
Wear that with pride.
Oh, yeah, you're
Although
flowing,
you're going to end up with an S for spider on it pretty soon, I think.
Oh,
your
yeah.
flowing locks look well this morning, though, Steve.
No, thank you. I got to tell you, my alarm didn't go off and I've been on bed for very long.
What part of Michigan are you in, George?
Just north of Muskegon. It's a little cottage association. My wife's family's been here since 1905.
That's neat.
So it's really cool. So this cottage, you can't see it. It's so dark in the picture, but you know, there's no drywall. It's just all the interior, the studs that have, the finish on them is just age.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's the best.
Mhm.
Family cottages like that until it burned down, you could kind of walk around and kind of move your head and you could see where there was a knot that was missing and you could see light through.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's just board on board walls. Not great for acoustic separation, but other than that, it's fantastic.
How's the weather there?
Sunny, looks good. So I'll leave you guys to your rain.
Yeah, yeah, my kids are experiencing the tornado. They have no power, so.
Oh,
Oh, where are they?
sure.
Pardon me?
Where are they, Joan?
They're in Virginia, Chesapeake.
Oh,
So,
yep.
but yeah, they're having fun. It's been an interesting year for them.
It's funny when somebody says, where do you go in Michigan? I say Frankfort, Michigan, 40 miles west of Traverse City. And one person will say, oh, way up there, because they go to Muskegon. Another person will say, oh, way down there, because they go to the UP. So you're in Northern Michigan and I'm in Northern Michigan, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, I would call it way up there, right?
I think we should move on here.
I
Christie's,
agree.
got one foot on the dock and one on the boat, or we, if they show up, we'll put them on board. Let's go to
All right.
35.
This is Christie.
Hmm?
I have Phillips Automotive on my speakerphone. They're able to see through their computer, but they need to use my speakerphone to connect because they don't have the sound capability. So let me do a sound check. Phillips Automotive, can you speak so we can do a sound check?
Barely. You might have to shout. Sorry, Christy.
Can you hear us now?
Uh-oh.
Yes, so
Can't hear.
Phillips Automotive,
Have to do it this way.
I think that's okay. Can you state your name for the record, please?
I am Steve Paterick, and with me is John Phillips.
Thumbs up, Steve.
Yeah,
I didn't catch Steve's last name.
my last name is Paterick.
Phillips Automotive, if you can mute your computer. That might stop the feedback. Okay,
All right, I've got it
that's perfect.
turned way down.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and Steve, can you state your last name again? I'm sorry.
Steve, your last name?
Paterick.
Paterick.
Okay, thank you.
We love your logo. I love your logo.
Yeah, I do. It's
That
nice.
looks great.
I'm
So
not
Steve-
sure. I think it's kind of, it might look a little jammed into that triangle. The way it is, it's pretty big for that.
I can kind of hear. The way it looks in the triangle, you're saying looks a little jammed.
Looks a little, yeah, I was wondering, I mean, it almost would look better where your Phillips Automotive logo is now, you know, because it's a long horizontal band. It looks like it could like drive right down it.
Or they could shrink it,
Yeah,
shrink it a little bit, give it a little more room.
Just shrink it a foot or so.
Yeah.
Phillips Automotive commented that they'd really like to have the address on the outside of the building.
Okay,
That was the point of that sign.
mm-hmm.
Well, the address isn't too big.
No.
Yeah, I just had a comment. This is Bill Childs. if you put that address up there, it's gonna be so tiny, you're gonna barely be able to read it. What I would do, you have an iconic, incredible corner, probably one of the most important corners in Sugar Falls. I mean, everyone drives from River Road into here. What I would do, and again, I know we're economical and conscious of money, but I would take that panel right there and make it a vent. And what I mean by that is a louvered total triangle vent. I'd put that cool symbol that you got of the Phillips, which is really neat. Put that down, as George suggested, in the main body and put the address so everyone can see it. And then what I would do is take a coat of white paint or an off-white paint and paint that brick and that siding and that cupola. And you're going to have one of the best looking buildings in downtown Sugar Falls. It doesn't have to be white. It could be an off-white or a cream. And it would really pop and sing.
Yeah. Lighten it up.
I think that would be nice. I mean, that's outside of the purview of what you are bringing to us. So we can't really ask that you do that, but it's a nice idea.
Right, yeah, well, they were talking about you painting the brick. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, I don't understand that.
It's just an idea. It's nothing in what you're submitting. It's just an idea to.
Yeah, just an idea.
Look like you see a lot of times throughout the valley in this area, and it's just an idea. You could just ignore it.
So the other idea was to make the car smaller and perhaps the address bigger. Is that what I was hearing?
Address larger.
Right. Or bring the address down with the other sign for readability.
Right.
Just put the logo up there and then put the address down with the other sign. I don't know if that's legal though, you know, sign zoning wise with Harry would have to check it, but it's up to you. You could also put a larger 10 West Orange Street up there by itself and then replace the sign down below with that great logo you got. And then that would enlarge the 10 West Orange Street up in the triangle.
Yeah.
Might be hard to read. That's all we're pointing out to you or for your benefit.
Steve, have you looked at putting it up, making that white font says 10 West Orange Street bigger than what you show here?
Say that again?
Steve, this is Harry with Village Hall. Have you guys looked at making that 10 West Orange Street font a little bit bigger?
Yeah, well, we were kind of doing that, and we're actually, we're thinking about that at the moment, how we would do that, because we don't want it to look crammed down by the car either.
Understand.
It was a professional that designed it. Yeah. It was a professional that designed it, so that was why that's what he came up with. So.
I mean, the logo is gonna, I don't say it's gonna clash with the font of what you have down below, but it doesn't particularly complement it. The logo is very dynamic and the font down below is very static, kind of traditional font. So if you replace that with the car logo that gives your name down below, that would really pop. And then you'd have that whole triangle to put just a 10 West Orange Street in.
Right.
We're just thinking out loud here. So what would work best for you?
Yeah.
So you had somebody design the logo, not necessarily.
Well, somebody designed the sign also, the whole thing.
Okay. Okay.
One person, and then the sign was at a different point, and the whole thing was put together.
Well, I guess the
logo's
biggest,
been around for a little bit.
I
It's the
think,
material of the sign.
What was that?
The material of the sign, it's paint, it's,
Sign made out of? I don't know what the sign's gonna be made out of. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would only guess something like aluminum or steel or something, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, it could even have been a plastic of some kind. Yeah, they measured it to fit right in the slot. Yeah, we moved electrical wires out of the way because they were going right into the middle of that.
If you wanted to think about some of these things, you could bring it back and have your sign guy, do a little, tell us more about the actual sign. But I think it's a shame to make that a lot smaller, that your logo. That's why I'd love to put it somewhere where it has more room to breathe or drive.
Yeah.
so the questions we would like answered, and perhaps having the sign guy on Zoom would be helpful, is what the material is. If it's painted wood, you're gonna have to redo that car every 5 years, and that's not good. If it's other material, we'd like to hear that. I personally wonder what the wood, the diagram I'm looking at, what is that? I mean, that's not
The backdrop.
backdrop looks like, you got 2x4 in the photograph, but
Yeah, well, that's the outside of the triangle of the peak of the roof. And right now, the inside of that, where it's not cream colored, is just green.
it's painted 2x6.
Yeah, it's all painted wood.
Okay. From a maintenance standpoint, maybe covering it with something would make sense, or make it frame the sign in a more permanent fashion. So we asked her to consult with the sign guy and perhaps have him show up at the next meeting and have consider having the beautiful logo where the Phillips Automotive sign is, and having an address only in the triangle. So I move to revise and resubmit.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion, Steve, so you guys understand, to revise and resubmit with the comments that were just made by the chairman of the board. The motion is by King, and it's seconded by Naylor. Roll call. King,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes.
Naylor.
Yes.
Okay. So you understand, Steve and John, what has to take place? If you want to give me a call later today, I can
That's a good idea.
help you through the process.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, we could do that, I guess.
Okay.
Harry, this is Christy. Just a reminder that they can replay this portion of the meeting on our YouTube channel. It's recorded out there. If their sign person would like to review the comments in person, they can review that for reference.
Good point, Christy. Thank you. So Steve, you understand, you can go to our website under virtual meetings, YouTube, and you can review what was just discussed.
If you would, just, you've got our email address, right?
Yes.
Okay, would you just send me the link to the YouTube channel?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. 35 Maple Street. Removal of garage doors, door and window changes, new decking in rear, interior renovations.
Correct, and that's me.
So just before you get started, George, ABR members, this went through Board of Zoning Appeals last week. It was approved for the nonconformity because of the setback, side yard setback and stuff like that. And I think you've already seen this as a preliminary, so this will be a final review, and then I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thanks, Harry. So yes, so this is very similar to what you saw before. And if we go down, maybe stop at that view. What the difference between what you saw before and this is that we have, right, shown new window configuration underneath that porch. There was a odd kind of modern bay plopped on. So now we've tried to show something with some balance and more consistent with the house, where we're doing that porch, and we're opening up the room behind it. So it's a good moment to try and address getting a nice rear view from that room and a little more light. So you can see that. And then also there is a window up high from a bathroom up there. There's a technical term might be sketchy roof condition underneath that window right now. The roofs are not quite in plane. There's just kind of a mess going on that we're trying to clean up. And for that purpose, we're trying to raise the sill of that window. That window is a double hung now, but it is actually impossible to see that thing from almost anywhere from the outside. So you could walk around and try and find it out there, but you almost can't find it. So that's really more of a change that picks the window up. I think that's at the toilet compartment or where the toilet is anyway, but just allows the roof below it to be fixed a little bit and cleaned up so it won't have the technical issues it has now. And then that also shows we're leaving the existing door, which is a Dutch door. It's kind of a fun old door, and relocating 2 windows in the kitchen, where we're doing a little rebuild. And we can go down to the plan or we can go down to the other, let's just go to the other elevation view first.
I was about to ask whether those upper windows are existing across there.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
No one thinks that those upper windows are a terrific solution. We're just not addressing them now. These guys are
Okay.
trying to get as much work done now as they can, and that remains kind of a future endeavor. So here is the new little overhang, new window, door. We're trying to give the overhang a little bit of length, so we just kind of balance that out with that lantern. Those are the new elements there you can see that are bubbled, but I think that's really going to help that versus just having a big third garage door there, and obviously give them a lot of utility. And if we probably go up to the plan. Oh no, keep going down. There's one more elevation view. Yeah. So that shows the existing rear of that garage. That is not changing, but the higher element there is rebuilt. So that blank wall is behind closet and stuff. That's back in a little nook in the house, and it takes the place of a very dilapidated little kind of tacked on shed structure that's back there in that nook. We're just trying to clean that up. And I think it's going to be fine with obviously the windows are all around the corner in this view, but they're right there. The kitchen windows are right there. And then the new windows underneath the porch all face the rear.
Are you talking about the section on A5?
The section between,
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
link between the garage and the house.
correct, that is rebuilt. So there's new foundation there, right?
Yeah,
It's that-
A5, Harry, shows it,
Yeah, everybody's faces are in a way I can't find. It's covering the page number up.
oh,
Oh, keep going
Oh,
down.
Just move us.
There you go. There you go. Stop.
Okay.
That's good. Because just go down a touch. There you go. So that's that little straight section that encompasses a little new, like a little walk-in pantry and a closet. And then we're adding a utilitarian door into the garage. So that is new siding you're seeing in that area, right? So that is the extent of the project. We think we're doing a number of small moves and just trying to clean things up, make it much more livable and I think more attractive both from the street and from the backyard.
I think I'm
muted, I apologize. I said, I think this looks good. And only comment I had, and it's just a suggestion, is that the pantry, maybe put a little 2x2 window or some window. The only reason I'm saying that is because that wall where the garage is in the back, you have 2 windows and you have this big blank wall with just little daylight in the pantry. I know you lose a little space, but then it would give that a little bit of character with the window. And it's not a deal breaker if you don't want to do it. I totally get it, but it's just a suggestion.
A teeny little 2x2. I think that is kind of a nice little suggestion. I mean, I'll run that by. We'll definitely give that consideration, and I'm for that as well. We can.
Okay. Other than that, I think we moved to approve. Everything else looks great.
Yeah. Thank you for working on that Walnut Street elevation. I think it looks good.
Yeah,
Good.
I agree.
Nice job.
So I move for, is this final approval? Yes.
Correct.
Second?
Okay, motion by Naylor, seconded by King for final approval. Joan, you got all the comments?
Yes.
Naylor,
Thank you.
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Childs.
Yes.
Thank you, George.
Thanks.
Nice work. 42 Church Street, replacing existing outdoor fireplace.
Oh.
Is that the fireplace that Henry Church built?
Yeah, I don't think so. So they used to have an outdoor fireplace here. This picture I'm showing you is the existing one. They had to remove it in order to put this, if you recall, a couple of months ago, they're putting a porch on the back of their house, a 3-season room. And now they want to rebuild the fireplace and they're going to move it. So that's why this is in front of you.
Is there any
Christy,
photography that shows the porch?
I don't think there's a picture that shows the porch.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
This is the new addition. That's what,
Or yeah. Mm-hmm.
Christy, do we have anybody from Church Street going to talk about this?
I'm here.
Dan
from
McLaren is on the
Landscaping.
video.
Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Dan.
Dan McLaren with Bloody Landscaping. And Mr. Toll contacted me a little while back and showed me the addition he was putting on. And basically he stated that he liked his landscape the way it was. He wished he could keep it, but unfortunately he had to bump it all back because of the new addition. So we try as much as possible to kind of make it what it was, just moving the footprint back further. If you look at the old picture and the new picture, the fireplace itself is just about the same size. He also asked that it's a century home, and he said, I'd like everything to look old. That's why I incorporated the one picture that shows the veneer stone that we would like to use and the quartz stone pavers, just to give it kind of a more old world look. There will be a kitchen added, outdoor kitchen with a grill and a side burner, and a little serving station / bar counter for a couple of stools. Very simple planting. The far backyard will remain pretty much as it is. He does have a boulder fire pit back there now, and we're just going to reset the stones. Just kind of sloppy the way they set them. And there'll be a grass panel down there with some plantings. Other than that, he also asked for enclosure. I kind of laughed. He said, can you create an outdoor room? I said, well, basically that's what we do in landscaping. So he's got enclosure, obviously, with the back of the addition, the garage on one side. And then we took some little low wing walls off of the fireplace and set those at 18 inches in height to act as seating walls and give him that feeling of enclosure to the far backyard.
Oh, like little low 18-inch walls you could sit on?
Correct, right there. Yep.
Oh, that's nice. I like this plan, and I like the inspiration photo of the old fireplace. I think if you follow that, it's going to look great.
Mr. Toll found that on the internet. He did a website and he says, can you build this? And I said, we can make it look almost like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the intention is really to have it look more like the black and white photograph that we're seeing on the screen right now.
Correct.
Than the previous one.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I always try as much as possible. I always tell people with my landscaping, I like to make it look as much as possible like it was there, not an afterthought.
Yeah.
Again, the old world stone. And so when people walk back to this, this newer has been there for a while. That's kind of the intent.
Okay. I think it looks great.
Yeah, I do too. I'd move to approve.
Yeah.
I second the motion.
Okay. We have a mo-
I vote yes. I have to take a quick call.
Okay, got your motion by Child, seconded by King. King,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes.
and Naylor was a yes. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great day and stay safe.
Yep, you too.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thanks.
So that completes your regular agenda. Christy, we have a walk-in, you said?
We do. I have Frank Galucci and Mike Cato.
Hello.
Would like to present on 3 West Summit.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Mike, go ahead.
Hi, guys. Thanks for letting us join. Could I just jump in?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Frank is on the line with me. Frank's the new owner of 3 West Summit, which is also known as the Bancroft House or Grove Hill. And I know it's a historic house, and I know you guys are all aware of it. We wanted to sneak in for this quick sneak peek with you guys, just to take a temperature check with you before we go too far. I think I have the ability to share screen. I think. Can I share this screen here?
Harry, can you disable your screen share?
I certainly can.
All right, I don't really know how to do this too well, but
Mike, at the top, are you on a computer?
I'm on a computer, yeah.
So at the bottom, there's a green button that says screen share.
Got it.
And if you click that button, It
Yeah,
will show you all the screens you have open and you just select the screen you'd like to share.
desktop.
If you have a problem, Mike, I can do it and you can tell me where to move.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting a thing, open system preferences.
Do you want me to pull it up, Mike?
Could you do it easily? I don't want
Yeah.
to take everyone's time.
I've got it right here.
It's
yeah.
funny because like I see it on my screen, but I don't see it on the Zoom.
Is this what you
There
want,
we
Mike?
go. Okay. So thanks, Frank. So the first sheet in this PDF is just the aerial photograph. You could see the house location. There's a house, there's a hillside, and there's an existing carriage house off to the upper left of the red rectangle. This lot is about 1.03 acres, and we're going to be subdividing it into two different halves. The next sheet shows the new lot line. This is a little bit incorrect. The Frank and Michelle, who are buying the house, will have 0.70 acres. And then the leftover section for the new park is going to be 0.33 acres, which is up against West Cottage Street. You could see in this this existing sort of preliminary survey, there's the existing house, the carriage house, a small driveway that comes in off West Summit. And then there's a, not shown as like a gazebo located about where it says 42.6 feet. There's like an existing gazebo there that we're keeping. And there's an interesting and sort of charming stone staircase that descends from the property down North Main Street and turns into a dirt path. If you go to the next sheet, Frank, you'll see some photos of the existing house. I just took these last week. You know, the house miraculously is still in great shape for the exterior. Still has all the existing siding on it. What you're seeing in the upper middle photo on the top row is an existing addition that was put on in the 1920s. This house was built initially as an Italianate home in 1878. And you can see various photos of the various sides and the gazebo at the lower right-hand corner. The interesting thing about this house is there's a lot of doors. I was kind of laughing with your first presenter not having a front door. It's like he could have one of ours because we've got so many doors in this house and we're keeping most of them. And you'll see in a second what we're proposing. The next sheet shows photographs of, Frank, if you go to the next sheet. Well, there was the one before this. There was the carriage house. There's a carriage house also on the site that's close to West Summit Street. Again, this is the 4 different elevations. You could see the proximity to the existing house. And then just for context, there's a couple of photos of, you know, the far left corner in the bottom. That's the neighbor across the street. The next photo of the neighbor to the west is kind of through the woods. I'm standing in the backyard of our property looking out. I'm also standing in our neighbor, looking at our neighbor's house on the lower right. And then there's like an interesting house down the street, about halfway down across the street, that looks like it's been added onto a couple of times. The next sheet is a preliminary sketch floor plan where we're trying to figure out, like, the current house is about 2,685 square feet. We need a little bit more space for Frank and Michelle's family, young family. They have a very young child. They also have family that comes and visits with them. We are preserving the existing house and gazebo that you're seeing in gray. And then we're adding on a new breezeway connector that connects to a new carriage house. So we're removing the old carriage house, which is dotted in red on this sheet. And then we're rebuilding it further away from West Summit Street and turning it 90 degrees. And that new carriage house will house our garage and some extra spaces like a rec room and home office / guest room. And we're also going to be creating like a walkout sort of basement courtyard between the new carriage house and existing house. And I'll show that in a second. So if you look at the next sheet, this is just, you know, CAD drawings that we were able to get from the previous developer that was going to redevelop this land and move this house. These are old CAD drawings reflecting the current floor plan. Now, again, this is flipped from the site plan. West Summit Street's at the bottom of this sheet where it says first floor, second floor. That's West Summit, and downtown Chagrin Falls is at the top of the sheet, just for reference. And you can see there's a lot of doors and porches on this house. So if you go to the next sheet, Frank, because I know you're controlling this, and Frank, if you want to jump in and say anything, please do. The existing house on the left, which is kind of shaded in this sort of yellow color, we're maintaining the whole basic form of this house, and we're keeping it, and wanted almost to feel like it's untouched, although we're kind of rearranging some of the rooms on the inside. We're flipping the kitchen and dining room space. We're keeping the stairs where they are. We're making a modest addition to the front of the house because the stairs are very, very steep. They're almost like 9-inch tall risers. So we're going to be rebuilding, but mimicking the old stairs. So the old house contains the dining room, kitchen, living room space, and a den, and we're reworking the pantry. And we're keeping as many doors as we possibly can. We just won't use them from the inside because we think the doors do add a lot of character to the house. In our new breezeway, which is the part in the middle, and it's labeled as such, it's like a 20-foot wide breezeway. Thank you, Frank. That incorporates the new entry, the new family entry. It's a mudroom, front door. It's gonna have a new laundry room, cubbies, all the things that a modern family needs upon entering a house. And then there's a connection to the new carriage house, which is to the far right, which would be a 4-car garage. And off that carriage house, there's a staircase. There's a stair that goes down to a new rec room that's under the garage, and then a staircase that goes up that's accessed from the outside that accesses a at-home office and guest suite. And then down below, you're going to see there's like a right in the middle between those two things where it says lower courtyard below. That's like where we're creating this walkout that's going to open up to the hillside. So if we go to the next sheet,
Mike, one question is just when you talked about the stairs, did you want to mention the porch here and the adjustment for capturing
exactly where Frank is highlighted in blue just a second ago? That little like 6'5", it's about 5 feet deep. That's an existing porch that was added on in the 1920s. We're going to be building into that to create more space internally, and then we're going to recreate the porch just above that blue square. So like where I'm showing a table with like 4 chairs, that's like a new porch that we're adding on that mimics the old porch that we're filling in. That's the only part of the old house where we're kind of modifying it. So if we go to the next sheet, again, on the far left, you see the existing house. We're just kind of keeping a similar arrangement of spaces. It's 3 bedrooms, nice master bath. We're turning one of the bedrooms into a walk-in closet. Where it says rework existing addition at the bottom where it says existing house, that's that 1920s part of the house. And the ceilings are only like, I want to say they're like 6'3" or some really low dimension. You could barely, I'm not that tall, but my head almost hits the top. We're going to be rebuilding that part of the house and raising the roof a bit. And you'll see that in the elevation in a second. In the middle, you'll see the 20-foot breezeway, which is the low 1-story section of the house that connects to the carriage house, which has, again, home office, guest suites. It's a place where Frank could work from home, but also, guests could stay there. And it's also some overflow space for the kids because you're going to see in a second, the basement of the existing house is almost unusable. So Frank, if we go to the next slide, the space is underneath the existing house. The ceiling is incredibly low. I don't even think I could fully stand up in it. It's going to be good storage space, but we are going to be redeveloping part of that basement, digging it out, creating like sort of an in-law suite down there with an egress window, small like wine storage area, walk-in closet, and then 1.5 baths. 1 bath will feed directly into the in-law suite, and then a half bath for entertaining. So down here, we're going to create a rec room because we can't stick it underneath the house. So we thought we'd stick it underneath the new garage. So this on the far right, where it says 30-foot new carriage house, this is sort of our rec room. It's like, bar, sort of like a secondary entertainment kitchen, big dining space for family gatherings, and then folding doors that go out to this lower level courtyard that's going to be part of this walkout that's kind of sandwiched between the carriage house and the old house. And we've got a staircase with stepped planters like bring you back up to the old terraces. Attached to the back of the carriage house is going to be a small greenhouse and a small outdoor kitchen. Again, the garage is going to be built out of, concrete walls and steel beams and precast concrete planks with a weathering slab inside the garage. That'll be a waterproof ceiling in there. We're doing another project right now for a client that's kind of built, it's going to be built similarly to this. But going to like what you really probably want to see are elevations. So the next sheet shows.
Mike,
yes.
can I just add, the greenhouse we kind of incorporated only because the original property, everything we've read is that there was also a greenhouse on the property, kind of tucked over in the corner. It's now a separate lot, but so it's over here just to kind of reflect what was there before.
Right, back in the 1880s and 90s, which was, we did get the report from Harry. This was that there was like flower growing and greenhouses on this property originally. I wanted to include this existing CAD drawing that we were, again, able to get from the previous person that was looking at this. And that kind of just red marked it. Basically, we're keeping everything essentially the same. I sort of clouded on the south elevation that newer 1920s addition that's kind of awkwardly proportioned and has a low ceiling and very low roof. We're going to be reworking that. And that's that porch you're seeing too, where we're going to be pulling out that wall and building a new porch in front of that. East elevation, we're going to be we're taking away a door. There's so many doors on this corner that actually face North Main Street. We're taking away a door and possibly adding a new window just to add some more light. The windows are going to match the existing. The west elevation, again, that's that 1920s addition we're going to be taking off and kind of reworking. And that's where our breezeway attaches to. So our new breezeway is attaching to the old 1920 addition, and we're not really touching the rest of the house. And then the north elevation, which actually faces West Summit Street, that's kind of our formal front. Again, we're going to remove a door, possibly redo the two windows on the far left side because they kind of look awkward. That was the old kitchen. And then we're going to rework the existing 1920s addition where you kind of see the windows are not quite aligned. So this brings us to what we're proposing. The next sheet, this is again West Summit elevation. Again, there's a huge thick like batch of trees across the front of this. It's hard to get pictures of this house, even though it's relatively close to the street. So you see on the far left, the existing house, we're kind of thinking right now, maybe it's even the same colors, it's the same siding, it's the same trim, windows. Those two small windows on the far left side, we're thinking about making them taller because that's going to be the dining space. But essentially kind of not touching this, making it look like it's always been here. We are reworking that, that addition. This is just one way of kind of trying to rework the roof and the windows in those spaces from what's previously there. Then we have our new connecting breezeway that goes to our new carriage house. The carriage house, we're thinking that, maybe the colors are flipped, like maybe the carriage house is vertical board and batten. It's the charcoal gray color with white trim. So it's the inverse color scheme of the house, white windows. We would do a metal roof on this because it's, typical for a barn to have a metal roof on it. And then for the new breezeway, we thought the new breezeway might be like a combination of like the house and the carriage house. So it's kind of has siding that matches the house because it's really part of the house now, but it might have the metal roof of the carriage house. So we're trying to just think of a thoughtful way to blend the two where the old part of the house still reads as the old part of the house. And then if you look at the next sheet, Frank, the side of the carriage house, yeah, that one. So that's the side of the carriage house. Again, this is all new, faces our neighbor to the west. It's a 4-car garage. We've got the little entry that goes up to the guest suites. Just trying to keep it simple, not necessarily trying to mimic the old house, but more of the gable forms of the existing carriage house we're knocking down. You kind of see the hill starts to slope down in the back in the greenhouse. And you see the old house kind of popping up behind the roof of this one. Then Frank, if you go to the last sheet, which is this faces towards downtown, the hillside, you see the carriage house on one side, again, the vertical board and batten, some sort of like large barnstone foundation, the greenhouse, not totally designed yet, but just a thought, maybe it has like a, octagonal sort of shape to it. And then the veranda, covered veranda and the breezeway. which is in the middle, which actually is 2 stories on this side. And then you've got the existing house, which pretty much looks the way it does right now, just cleaned up. You see that reworked new porch on the old part, where it says rebuild existing porch. That's new, again, pushed out 6 feet. That's all I have. Sorry I talked too fast, too long, but just trying to get some reactions from you guys. And I know we're a walk-in and we're not a formal applicant. And Frank, if you want to add anything, please do.
I think it's good to stay on this view too. I mean, this is very important, obviously the most iconic view of the house. I think there's a lot of things to like about this strategy. And I like the link, and I think I pretty much like how you're reworking the old addition, the upper part of it, except that in this view, you see you're kind of losing that shoulder of the house. You can see the roof of it, but then it goes away. There's a window right under it. I'm a little worried about that 6-foot extension over that porch. Now that's a 2-story extent, 2-story addition, it looks like. I think you really have to study that area and be very sensitive to it, but I'd love to see the shoulder of the old house. I mean, I know you might need to add some space there, but think about whether it's 1-story, 2-story, 1-story breaking back 2 feet to the 2nd story. Just keep playing around with that area. I think the sunken terrace, rec room, all that stuff is very clever because it adds a ton of program and it does not have a real impact from the view of the village or the park or anywhere. I think that's a smart strategy. Interior comment, I don't think you've done justice to the stair of the house, which is a somewhat, it's an important element now. It feels like a stair in this house should have an open rail coming down, and it's just trapped between two pieces right now.
We agree.
So I think you keep, yeah, I mean, maybe that front living room is what you're really continuing to study. You know, maybe that fireplace moves, that's a new element. Maybe you are seeing that stair from that stair is part of that room or something, but that's, I mean, you know, you got a lot of things in the right place here. I just think that wasn't so far hasn't been given its due in the plan. And then my biggest comment on this in terms of where to go from here is that I think everything you do, see the new carriage house, this is a great place to look at it. The new carriage house, that 30-foot dimension, the width of the carriage house, it's too big. And I think that carriage house looked very similar to the way it looked now, but you lost 4 feet in width. I bet you could fit all the same program in and try and make it a little lower and no cupola. You don't need to compete with that Italianate cupola on the carriage house. I mean, I know you're trying to make it attractive, but I think it needs to be a little more subservient to the form. That's my dog, sorry. Piper says hi to you all.
I didn't like that comment.
Tired, it's time to go out.
I was gonna say, he doesn't like your comments.
Yeah.
So that's all. I mean, I think there's a lot to like here. There's obviously a lot to talk about, but.
Right.
I want to thank you for taking this project on.
Yes.
It's very exciting to see this
Wonderful.
house coming back to life. I think the elevations that I focus on when I see this are, of course, the view from the village. I understand there's going to be, of course, the public park in the front. And I think what might make your case is to have some kind of photo of that public sight line. And if you can show how that's going to drop into the topography of the site, I think that would help quite a bit. I agree with George's comments about the carriage portion of the house is quite large. And if you could work to reduce that we want to highlight the historic house component of this. And the addition here, to me, competes a bit. I'd like to see that house is really being the highlight of it. But it's a very exciting design, and I think we can, you know, work together, and it's going to be a great result in the end.
I'll admit, I think it's drawn too tall. After I drew it and I came back the next morning and
Yeah.
looked at it, I realized it could be at least lower, a couple of feet for sure.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I have to excuse myself from the meeting. But I'm very excited about this project, and thank you so much for bringing it in. And I'm sure that George and Phil and Steve will give you all great comments. So thanks so much.
For joining.
Thank you.
I'm on a different wavelength here. This process should start at the beginning. We're talking about picking out colors, essentially, and this is, you know, the iconic Bancroft House of Chagrin Falls. In full transparency, I coached Frankie Gallucci, Frankie before his father passed away in the 6th grade. So Frank and I go back a ways. We're not super close, but we have a relationship. And several months ago, he called me about the possibility of the Bancroft house. And I said, you know, it's a long process. This place is hot at the time, extremely hot. I can't remember the exact process. It was still part of the picture or not, but this is the iconic Bancroft house. And I think I counted 8 times the term reworking was used. And the idea when you buy an old house, you take into consideration that you're getting low ceilings and steep stairs and things such as that. This doesn't need to be a museum. And what I see here is magnificent. It would make a house almost equal, perhaps more equal to the Crandall house down the road on Division Street. It's the same house. The Crandall did a demolition. This is trying for a demolition. We never approved the demolition. I guess we're talking about demolition. Bit was doing this, particularly in relationship to the carriage house. George was saying you've redone. You are demolishing the carriage house. That's what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're taking the carriage house away. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a process, arduous in some situations, historically significant and all that kind of stuff. This is just a magnificent, beautiful home, but it's no longer an old home. It's a beautiful home with, perhaps one might say, the most picturesque lot in all of the town. The question is, when the Bancroft house looks down on Chagrin in 5 years, will it still be the Bancroft house? Or will it be the heavily reworked addition to the new house that's being built? I said to Frank, I'll say 3 months ago, that, boy, I tell you, I don't know as your plans fly, and I'm not the emperor, I'm the chairman. I'm not sure how much I would be behind it. And, as magnificent as this project is, are we getting rid of one more old house in Chagrin Falls during that process? Many of the rework the front door. Well, perhaps the last thing you should ever change on this house is an existing old front door. It should be the last thing for rework. And reworking the windows beside the front door. Don't rework them, repair them. This is the Bancroft house. I guess at this point, that's all I have to say, but this process should start at the beginning, not 3/4 of the way through, or halfway through, which is the way it's been approached this morning. Investing heavily in final plans, I recognize. Coming before us today was a brilliant move. You've gotten different feedback. I'm sorry Wendy can't be here. She gave you her thumbnail sketch, but I'm giving you mine. Before you rebuild the carriage house, you better tear it down first or get approval to. The carriage house is not iconic in many ways. It's structured together, as I recall, maybe 3. It's historically significant. Is it a gem? No. Is this a gem? Yes. It's a brand new, magnificent structure. But we're getting rid of one more old house in Sherwood Falls, and what I can see. I think that's enough of my comments for today. You get the drift. Any other comments?
This is Bill Childs. I concur with George and Wendy's comments. I think that they've kept the essence of the original house as much as they possibly could. I mean, it's pretty much there intact. And I think from an architectural standpoint, houses tell stories and they go through history. And how I'm viewing this is that we have the original house, which we can definitely see it's there pretty much in its full essence. And this link in this other piece is another chapter of another family, another history of the house that's being added on. So I think it's in a good direction, and I feel it makes logical sense. And that was, like George said, clever how they used the bottom part of it. And I think that getting rid of the cupola would be good. And I think if you can bring the mass down, maybe you have knee walls in that structure, and maybe there's some subtle shed dormers that let light in to break up the facade over the other on either side of the gable and just bring it down mass wise. But I mean, I think this has been a good effort and a good step forward in my opinion.
Going back to what Steve said, I think what's really good about your comment, Steve, is absolutely true. Like, you know, what's there is a house and an accessory structure. So we want to, you know, have the whole conversation about that accessory structure. I think in the process of saving the Bancroft house, you know, the accessory structure potentially becomes the sacrifice of that. You know, we certainly want to have that conversation. And to me, the most sensitive area is from this view is that addition. I do not think we should be protective of the existing roof of the addition structure because I don't think it's successful. It looks cobbled on and it's not successful on the interior, but it's also not successful on the exterior. But I do think we want to be protective of the porch in front, that left side of that facade and that shoulder of the main house part particularly. So those things we really want to look at. So if you're just getting 6 feet, you know, consider getting 4 feet. Consider maybe not adding forward in that addition area, but just keep studying that. You know, we're going to need to see like a 3-dimensional views of how that all kind of from the left lower angle here, looking back at the house. We're really going to look at that very carefully. And that's, to me, that's the area that's the trickiest. I really do like the fact, the link and the accessory structure being as separate as they are. That's all I've got.
I haven't weighed in yet, so I want to do that before I have to run. I think that Mike, you've done a really great job of being sensitive to the existing architecture, to try and create 21st century space. To some extent, you know, my belief systems, this is a be careful what you wish for. When we were battling to save the house, I'm not sure how many people really gave much thought to what it's going to take to save this house, and what it's going to take for someone who has the means to save it and want to live in a house that is still old versus one that's capable of taking this house into the next century. And Mike, I think you've done a great job. There's a lot of things that George and Bill have said that I agree with in terms of being more or being as sensitive as we can to the existing house. I don't think that saving a 1920s addition on a 1870s house warrants any thought at all. Just because it's 100 years old or 80 years old or whatever, doesn't mean it has any value in attempting to create a house like you're working on. So I think there's been enough comments with respect to where we think you're going and what we think you should be doing. And I applaud I think, Frank, that you're taking this on, and there's going to be a difference of opinion and there's going to be a lot of discussion, but we're saving a house and we're saving an iconic piece of property, and that's what we have to focus on. And how do we make this a house that stays iconic? And this is a step in that direction. So, and with that, I have to move on. So
thank you for the comments.
Okay, I think we're all ready to move on here.
Thanks.
I would say that having the names Cato and Payne working with you is an excellent choice, because we worked with them to great success in the past. And I look forward to doing that.
Hey, Mike,
Comments.
Mike, one quick question for you. This is Harry with the
Hi,
Village.
Harry.
Nice job on the design, by the way, and I have not met Mr. Colucci yet, but I've heard nice things about him. So welcome to the Village, Frank.
Thank you. Dr. Kego, correct what you've heard.
Mike, just a zoning question. Have you guys done a lot coverage calculation with the new
Not
lot
yet,
and
but
split?
I could do all that information and get it over to you.
Okay.
I know you're going to look at all this. I
Yeah.
wanted to see if the idea was okay before we got into all the details.
I think you got good feedback, so.
Yeah.
Mike, I do know Dave and I ran the numbers. It's well within what the
Yeah.
footprints permitted to be based on the square footage.
Very good, thank you.
But we are being sensitive to that.
And the
Okay,
setbacks
great.
are pretty great too.
Correct.
For what it's worth, also, just so you guys know, I have also kind of informally talked to both of the adjacent property owners and kept them abreast of what
Good.
the thoughts were.
Very good, that's good. Good, you keep that dialogue open with the neighbors.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I appreciate everyone's time. Sorry that was a long walk-in, but we just needed to get your thoughts on it. I know Frank and I have been going back and forth on this for months, and I'm glad we did kind of have some opinion to wrap our next process or steps we could frame around.
Okay, great.
All righty.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
Any last
Thank
words
you.
from anyone? Very good.
Christy, anybody online, Christy?
Are there any members of the public who would like to comment? If so, raise your hand via the Zoom platform, please. No, sir, Harry?
Okay, very good, thank you. That concludes your agenda, the ABR.
Okay. We are therefore adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
you.
Bye.